Your throat chakra issue of not feeling seen or heard is actually a great gift in disguise. And the deeper this issue is for you of not feeling seen or heard, the more you are meant to be seen and heard in a really big way. I invite you to feel into that. If you just close your eyes and just see if you can tap into that this problem that you definitely have, yes, it's a problem, it's an issue, is actually a gift, and that you are meant to be seen and heard in a big way, in a great way, for who you are and all that you have to share and all that you stand for. I remember for a great deal of my life, I did not feel seen or heard at all. I remember so well my first marriage. We got married really young. We bought a house so early on, and then we had children. And unfortunately, we both had a lot of issues, and we were young, and we weren't able to hear and see each other. There was a lot of conflict in the marriage, and that marriage eventually ended 13 years later. And while I was relieved, I can't say that my life was a whole lot more fulfilling. And I had two kids to support. I wasn't getting any child support. And I did eventually get a job with a home improvement contractor. I was doing energy efficient home improvements. And I realize now I can just see how before I left there, I did not feel seen and heard at all. He had asked me, he set a standard. I was doing estimating. I was an energy auditor and I was doing estimating and sales. And he was hoping I would increase the company's gross sales by, I would say 60, 70%. And I said, well, why not double it? Why don't we just set the goal that I'll double it? And he said, well, if you can do that, I would just be thrilled. Well, he wasn't thrilled. He wasn't thrilled when the time came around. I worked so hard. You can imagine a single mother. I had two kids. They would have been, I think, around 10 and 12 at that time. So I was driving them to their various sports, soccer. And eventually my son was in hockey and I had to go to another town to drive him to hockey because the current hockey team or the team where we lived was full. And, swimming and whatever else they were involved in, and to visit friends. And sure, it was shared with other parents, but I had a lot on the go. And a lot of the calls I made were in the evening. So it took time away from my family. And I had to, really try and make sure that I wasn't disrupted by these wonderful kids. And I worked weekends as well. And a first sign that I wasn't really seen or heard too well was I didn't even have my own office. I had a little tiny table that was no more than 2.5 feet wide and maybe 18, 20 inches deep, this little spot in the corner of his office. That's all the space I took up. And what ended up happening was I almost tripled the gross sales within less than a year and a half. And this really upset him. That may sound strange, but he just didn't like my big paychecks. And I just thought this is so worthwhile because I can support my kids well here. And that filled me up with joy. I was just doing my best. And in the meantime, I had taken up meditation and I was doing a lot of healing work because I wanted to feel happier. I wanted to feel more fulfilled. And so I was doing a lot of healing work through meditation and specifically the chakras at that time. Well, that was devastating for me when he wanted to cut my pay. He approached me and said enough of these big paychecks and he wanted to cut my pay. And the long and the short of it was I cried in his office twice and I just stood my ground and said, no, you're not. He wanted to take my car allowance away. And, but it made working there very uncomfortable from that time forward. In the meantime, I had another company, a guy named Larry was pursuing me to come and work for them. And I didn't want to. I had a great momentum going, and I had been very happy. Well, Larry continued to pursue me for about 8 months until finally I just thought this isn't going to get any better at the company I'm at. And Larry seemed to really see me. He really seemed to see me, and he heard me. He asked me what I was passionate about in the industry and what I loved about my job. And he gave me this great big office with glass windows all around and my own computer. And it had a fantastic showroom. And so I was so happy to be seen and heard. And then I could see in other work that I did, I became a spiritual interior designer, and how I was so easily and readily seen for the work that I did. And working with Larry, I really got to be seen and heard, because we ended up having our own radio talk show. And I named myself the Mold Queen because I was so passionate about helping young families eliminate mold in their homes. This was over 20 years ago. It was when the leaky condo syndrome was happening in a big way. And there were so many homes that were filled with mold, underventilated, lacked insulation in certain areas, and poor windows, that sort of thing. And so, so I called myself the Mold Queen because I was so passionate about clearing that up and helping these families. And I went to great lengths to do that and loved doing it. And so I've gone from Mold Queen to Throat Chakra Shaman. And so, my name is Cheryl, and I am the Throat Chakra Shaman, and I help people speak their truth and express the truth of who they truly are so they can shine brightly. And I invite you to stay with me for the next few minutes, because I would like to explain how you can go from feeling unseen and heard, and why this is a gift, why this is actually a great gift, and how to move into that place of really allowing yourself to step into the power and the joy of really feeling seen and heard. And so this issue of not feeling seen and heard originates as energy. We are energetic beings. And feeling seen and heard is something that is expressed. It happens with a clearer throat chakra. The more we clear the throat chakra, the better. But there's energy that comes up from all the other chakras. There's this natural flow of the universe into us through the crown, and all the energy goes back up and out again. But a lot of it needs to grow and develop and shine in the throat chakra. And so the energy gets stuck somewhere in the body, or usually in multiple places. And then it's like, it just can't come up here. And a lot of it, this is like a bottleneck, the neck is really narrow. And the way it gets stuck is through held emotions. Held emotions. We need to feel all our emotions. And what often happens starting in childhood is there isn't the space to feel all our emotions all the time. And it's especially, I think of, when babies are left to cry. When babies are left to cry, they're not feeling seen or heard. And it actually can be really traumatic, depending on how long they're left to cry. I remember after having our first son, Dan, it was sort of thought at that time, this is a lot of years ago, that you can let the baby cry if you can't figure out what to do to make it feel better. You can let the baby cry for 10 minutes and then you need to pick it up again. And so it wasn't about, I think years ago I had heard that, if you had a colicky baby, you just put it outside so you don't have to hear it cry all day. I mean, I can't even fathom. I could share some other stuff. A client of mine, she was a colicky baby, and her mother told her that she used to just scream and slam doors. She would just scream to try and drown out the baby and slam doors. So you can imagine the trauma that woman went through as a baby. And so she grew up not feeling seen or heard. She's just screaming. It's like, please help me. So it's often stuck emotion. And when there's not the space for us to feel seen and heard, and this develops patterns in us. It develops patterns. If we're corrected or even told later on in life, either early or later, it usually stems from earlier, that you're told by somebody that you don't feel a certain way. Your emotions are disregarded and you're not allowed to feel them. Or children really can have difficulty processing emotions. We have to learn how to do that. Children do to an extent with crying or singing. They're very expressive. They don't hold anything back. But there can be so many things that happen that they feel confused, and they don't know what's going on with them, and it's not okay for them to express it in certain ways. And so this energy gets trapped within us. It gets trapped in the chakras, gets trapped throughout the body. We also have the meridians, but we are fully energetic beings. And so what we want to do is unravel those patterns. We want to unravel the pattern. What is the pattern today? The pattern today can be for you that you don't feel seen and heard. You may speak and people don't hear what you're saying. You may act in a certain way. You're trying to get someone's attention and you just don't seem to get it, or you're rejected. That what you have to say, they just plain old say they don't want to hear it. You're shut down. And it doesn't seem to matter what you do in the worst case scenarios, that you just don't feel seen and heard. And so we want to find the patterns in the body. Where did this begin? And we can do this. I like to do it through meditation, and it takes courage to go inward. It's always scary to face what's been hard to face. It's uncomfortable to face our wounds, to have a look at them. I only work with people who are okay to feel uncomfortable. If you don't want to feel uncomfortable, you're not the person I'm going to work with. And so I invite you can do this through meditation. That I find is the same way, or you can do it with the help of someone else. Even therapists and not counselors are often really good at helping us explore our emotions. And we can go back to the different times in our lives, but it's really helpful to find the original wound, the beginning of that pattern, when that energy first got stuck, because what it does, it keeps attracting more of the same until we work on it and we start to free it. And that's what happened when I went from one form of work to another. I had been working on this. I'd been working on many issues that I had. I could give you a mile-long list. And then the universe responds. So then here I have someone in my life who could actually see me and hear me, and you can have that too. And a lot of what comes up for us, you can look in the solar plexus, which is the area just below the sternum in that soft spot at the top of the abdomen. And the solar plexus is very much about truth and power. And so it's really healthy for us to explore our sense of truth and power and what wants to come up. What wants to come up through the throat chakra, what wants to be seen and heard. And sometimes we just feel powerless. And so we need to heal that. Or sometimes we just don't have access to the truth. Sometimes our childhoods were just so confusing that truth becomes a real issue. We don't know what's true for us or not. So how can we be seen or heard for the truth of who we really are? And that energy comes up through the heart. And the heart is all about love and compassion. And so the energy always flows. I mean, that's the emotion. The emotion wants to flow. And even creative expression in the sacral chakra. That's a big one too. How creative are you? What is all that about? But what I really find is that it's the root chakras where all the juicy stuff is. Because what I see, I do a lot of chakra readings, and what I've noticed in people, the root chakra is very much about our family of origin. It's when we were first developed, and it's actually from, some people say 0 to age 7, others say 0 to age 10. There's some variables there, but it's early life. I always like to try and look at age 0 to 5. That's when things were really established. What was going on in your family? How were your very well-meaning parents parenting you. And our parents are 95% of the time very well-meaning. I don't think you talk to too many parents who said, I really didn't care. I really didn't care about what happened in your childhood or how you turned out. Most parents are very, very well-meaning, and humanity keeps evolving. But the other thing in the throat chakra, or a couple other things in the root chakra, one, it's where our soul comes into humanity. And our soul is an expression of God or the universe. It's all a part of it. We're all one. And so that soul comes in, and I feel that and visualize it or see it in others, that it comes in through the back of the root chakra, the tip of the coccyx. That's it. That's the entry point. And what I see from that point, you've heard of soul purpose. What I see in people is there's like this steel metal plate that goes down, and that goes down into the earth. And it's like a spike. It's like a giant spike. And that's about what we stand for. What we stand for. And I can see in some people, I remember doing a chakra reading a couple of weeks ago, and I just saw in this woman, she really took a stand on something. This whole metal plate was just so solid and filled with energy and bright, and just went right into the earth. And so with that person, she takes such a stand. She has passion for something, and she has meaning in her life, period. Meaning. It's not just in her work. She is the meaning. She is the meaning. And so nothing can really blow her over. It's kind of like, we pitch a tent and we put the spikes in the ground so the tent doesn't blow away. Well, she is just so rooted. She is just so rooted in what she takes a stand for. And so all of our souls come in with something that we're meant to be seen and heard for. And the gift of not feeling seen and heard, however you got to this point, it's a matter of unraveling that, because it's a challenge. This is part of the human struggle. This is what human life is really all about, is we have all these challenges to overcome, to give us the muscles to bring out why we are here, to bring out our purpose. And does it happen overnight? No. We do certain things, we build the muscles, just like I was the mold queen. So I was building that muscle of having purpose, of having passion for something. Was that the be all end all? No. Then I was on to the next thing. Then I was on to spiritual design, continuing to build muscle. And here I am now. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but this to me is just so important, that you get the message that because you don't feel seen and heard, it's because you're meant to be seen and heard in a big way. You have something to share. You really have something to share, and something that you're designed to be seen for, and you're meant to be heard. And I know when I first really started touching into that, I would get really emotional. I would get tears. And often what we fear the most, more than anything else, is our greatness. How amazing we really are. That is overwhelming. I have seen so many people cry, just bawl their eyes out when I start to talk about that. And so I encourage you to start this unraveling process in whatever method is best for you. And I have a method. If you're interested in my book, I wrote this book, Heal Your Neck Issues and Let Your Throat Chakra Shine. And I would love to see your throat chakra shine. And the universe wants to move through you in a very special way. So if you would like a copy of my book, you can email me at throatchakrashaman@yahoo.com. So all lowercase, one word, throatchakrashaman@yahoo.com. And if you think you'd like to entertain the idea of working with me, or you would even like a chakra reading, you can go to my website, CherylStelt.com. Thank you. And may you find ways to allow yourself to be seen and heard and shine your light so brightly.